All right, what's going on, guys? Gdoggcasey here with another impressions video. Today we're going to be looking at Football Manager 21. So, a little bit of my history with Football Manager. I've been playing these games on and off. I think the first time I ever played Football Manager was FM15, and it was pretty good, especially for back then. But there was a lot of the interface wasn't quite as nice, and they were still building the game into the product that it is now. And the way that this series typically goes is each year they just tack on more and more to sort of fill out the features and turn this into like a full-fledged soccer management simulator. And this year in FM21, they focused a lot of their efforts on improving the match engine, which, in my opinion, looks very, very nice. Now, to the layman, you're probably not going to notice much difference. Like, if you're like me and you play Football Manager a little bit here and there each year or each few years, then depending on your history, you may or may not notice the differences. Like, if you haven't played for a few years, you come into FM21, you're probably going to notice massive improvements. From last year to this year, I would say the match engine improvements are very, very nice. They've changed the way the interface works a little bit, but at the end of the day, the way that you play the game is not changing all that much at all. In fact, there's a pretty prominent Football Manager YouTuber and streamer named Zealand who made a pretty good video talking about how, FM21, yeah, it looks nice, it looks shiny, but the actual way you play the game doesn't really change. So if you're strapped for cash or not really the type of person that likes to enable companies who do this sort of thing, where each year they release pretty much like roster updates, but with small feature updates as you go, if you don't like that kind of thing, then you might not really like this game. But for me, I've always been a fan of enabling these these management simulators, because I love these games, and I think that one day, not too far from today, we're going to end up with a batch of like just beautiful sports management games. We already have a few. I think right now FM or Football Manager is probably pretty easily the top tier in terms of all sports managers. I think Out of the Park Baseball is very close behind with their baseball sim. And I think we're just like a couple... what's the word? I want to say epiphany, but that's not the right word. But we're a couple games away from having these like, we'll have an amazing American football simulator. We'll have an amazing baseball, hockey, soccer. Who knows what else, right? Boxing, racing. You can really, the sky's the limit here with these types of sports simulators, and I'm here for it. And I think right now, FM and the company that makes it, which I'm drawing a blank. I want to say Sports Interactive. I don't know why. I think that's more of a forum board, if I'm not mistaken. So bear with me a quick moment while it is Sports Interactive, yeah, and Sega. So developed by Sports Interactive, Sega is the publisher. And yeah, I think that Football Manager kind of stands on top of all of the other sports simulators out there. So if you've ever been somewhat interested in sports simulators, FM is the way to go, unless you just really don't like soccer. Which, by the way, I will be calling it soccer. I understand the official term is football. I've even experimented myself with calling it football, but I swear to God, every time I call it that, I just feel like a poser. Okay, I grew up in Canada. We call it soccer. It's a cultural thing. I don't mean any disrespect, but it just helps me differentiate between soccer and the football that I grew up with. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into a little bit of this. So the way that I've set up this video, I'm actually already very near the end of the season. I have one game left, and I have probably a certain amount of days until that game happens. So I want to show you guys the kind of gameplay loop that you're going to see, at least during a season, and show you guys a little bit of my team. So I chose Dorking Wanderers. They are in Vanarama National League South, which is the bottom league in the European leagues, as far as I understand. There's hundreds of leagues in this game. You can play in any country that you can think of in most cases. There's a soccer league there that you can manage a team from, whether it's top tier skill levels or bottom tier skill levels. Doesn't really matter. There's so many different types of soccer you can play, all with different rules and league mechanics and different tournaments that they take part in. It's really cool. I've said this before in previous soccer videos, but one of the biggest draws for me to the soccer world is the way that it's all organized. I just think that it's really, really cool. It's a lot different than the NFL or the MLB or the NHL, where there's one league and this is the top league. In soccer, it's played all around the world and at high levels all around the world. So it makes sense that you have European leagues that are, that focus on being the best in Europe, and in Spanish leagues and French leagues and Italian leagues and American leagues. And then there's even tournaments where the best of each league goes into like the Champions League and they all face each other, best in the world. And then on top of that, you got the World Cup, which is another thing, international. So it's just, it's really cool. I love how it's just different than everything else. So getting into this world, as somebody who's not well versed in it but knows a little bit about it, is exciting. So I chose a bottom-dwelling team in the bottom-dwelling league in Europe, or England, I guess you can say. And I'm just trying to work up to the Premier Leagues. That's what I wanted to do. So I took Dorking, mostly because of their name. I was like, oh, that's a funny name. I don't know anything about these bottom leagues in England. So I just picked Dorking because I'm like, yeah, whatever. I kind of like their kits here. And it doesn't really matter what the team was when you're talking about bottom level. So let's look at our squad. I've done a lot of moving around with this team. A lot of these players came in just this year through free signings by me, like free transfer values or transfers and stuff like that. But a lot of these players are leftovers from what I started with. But essentially, any player that is over 23 years old is essentially somebody that came with the team. So we got all these old men here. Barry Fuller, actually probably our team captain and easily our best player on our team, but he's 30 years old. Or 36 years old. We got a couple other players here. And once again, I'm struggling with the interface here. But if I show you the reports, we can get a better look at the quality of the team and the potential and the current ability. And a lot of these players I brought in. Massimo Giamatti, this guy was, he's in on a loan. So that's another difference that soccer has over other sports, is that instead of just signing a player and owning them or whatever, you can actually loan them to your team. So I'm paying a portion of this guy's contract to play on my team, even though he belongs to Swindon. Swindon didn't have room for him on their team just now. They want him for the future, because maybe next season he's going to play a bigger role. But for this season, there's players that are ahead of him, so they loan him to me so that he can still play games and get experience, and I can get the benefit of this guy being a nice young right winger on my team and playing a first team role, right? So this guy's helped me win a lot of games even though he's not on my team. Players that are in blue are loaned players. So I tend to not loan in too many players, but this guy, he was able to slot in and be my first team winger, so I took him, and he helped me achieve the goals that I have achieved this season. Ben Friel, this is one of my first signings. He's just a potential 5-star player, so I took him in. He was only 20 years old. Lawrence Wuton, another player with good potential that I signed. Tariq Shihab, also I signed, and I think this guy, okay, no, his contract is reasonable. I believe I signed this guy. I don't know. Maybe I didn't, but he seems pretty good, so I think I did. It all blurs together by the end of this season. But there's a good look at our team, and you can see a lot of these players, even considered leaders, Ed Harris, Kane Wills. These guys were on the team when I started, and they are not going to stay. I'm not going to be keeping players that are over 30 years old with no potential, right? So, and also if we go to contracts, we can see a lot of these players are eating up a fair amount of my salary. So anyway, you guys don't care too much about this. If you're not familiar with management games, this kind of thing is going to confuse you. But if you are familiar, then you can have a quick look at my team and see what I've got to deal with. You have dynamics that you have to manage, which is essentially the team dynamics and happiness. I think happiness is the most important. so you can have a look and see who stands out as being unhappy and might be causing problems in the clubhouse. A lot of the players are somehow they're dissatisfied with how I'm managing the team. Okay, yeah, because they keep telling me I have a lack of depth at center back. Although these guys are dissatisfied and they don't have any reasons for it. Really weird. I think this had something to do with the fact that my team's goals for this season was to make the playoffs. But instead what ended up happening was we ended up winning the entire league. We're the champions of this league. So even though there's one game left, we've already clinched the championship. You can see by the points here. And as we were clinching, or as we had one game left to clinch the championship, I was urging my players to get that win so we can win the championship. And a lot of them were upset because our original goals for the season were to make the playoffs, were to finish in the top 7. So I found that to be a little bit strange, because I think that in a real life scenario, when you're in this situation, you have one game left, your goal at the beginning of the season was to make the playoffs, but now with 3 games left in the season, you have the opportunity to clinch the championship. I don't think it's too far-fetched for the coach to try to encourage the players to win that game. And a few of my players got pissed off when I did that, because they're like, well, you said earlier that all we had to do was make the playoffs, so now the goalposts are moved or whatever. And I thought that was a little bit silly, but it didn't impact my team in a major level. We're still good atmosphere. I just thought it's kind of funny that people are upset with my management of the team when we won the league. So there was literally no way I could have managed better. We got our tactics here. So if you're a football manager guru, you can pick apart my tactic. I made this all on my own. Actually, the story of this season was I started the season going with what the coaches were recommending, which was a counterattack style tactic. And I did one game with it, my first game of the season, and I just hated the way it looked. So right away I changed it, and I went to more, they call it custom control possession. We focus on controlling the ball, short passing, moving the ball up the field carefully, and working the ball into the box and just scoring goals that way. And after finally getting my players more familiar with this tactic, they started doing really well, and we started going on huge amounts of win streaks, and it resulted in us winning the league. So this is the tactic that I used. I've actually employed a new strategy, because some people will say that you should have 3 tactics, right? Which I actually do. These are tactics I've just kind of thrown in there. But the truth is I haven't used these tactics one single time all season. Instead, what I did was I just plugged this one in, and I'm sticking with it. And unless I feel like I want to change it in the future, I'm going to keep this tactic. First of all, because it already won me the league once, so it's got to be good enough to do that. And second of all, it's only going to get better as I fill it with better players. At the end of the day, what I've noticed in Football Manager, for the most part, you can choose almost whatever tactic you want, and your player skill is still going to be the determining factor of whether or not you're going to win games. And of course, that's not 100% true, because if you switch a tactic every game, they do have a familiarity stat here that essentially can ruin how they play if you're mixing things up too often. So that's why I figured, you know what, whatever, I'll just keep this tactic. It's very simple. You can look at it here. Everything that you need to know is here. I'm sure some of this contradicts other parts, and some of it is not good, but I won the league, so I'm happy. And as I move forward in this save and replace players with people who are better for these positions, for example, actually this is a wide midfielder, which I don't really want. I think the only reason why I put that there was I'm going to change that. Mostly just because of the player that I had was better at being a wide midfielder, but I don't really enjoy that. We're going to go to support. So when I go out looking for a ball-winning midfielder, or a central midfielder, or a central defender, or a advanced forward to fit my tactics, this guy's a little bit better at poacher, but I got him in at advanced forward, then my team will get even better. So it's pretty cool. I can also see that people want Ben Friel, Niall McManus. I might offload this guy. He's a little old, 26. He doesn't have a huge future in front of him, so he's not going to stick around too long. But Ben Friel is one of my favorite signings. He's going to be very good, hopefully. So I'm going to probably keep him. Anyway, there's the tactic. That's how I handle the tactics, is I essentially just plug in something that makes sense for the way that I like to play, and then I just hope it works. And I fill it in with players that fit that tactic. That's probably not the right way to do it, but it's been working for me this season. We can look at Team Report, where you get a lot of really good information about your team. My favorite one is the team depth chart. Really good way to look at your formation and find out where do you need help. And people keep complaining about central defender. One of the problems I do have with the way that this looks is you'll notice all 4 defending roles, Barry Fuller is in the lead. So it's not exactly simple to just easily look, because you're going to see, well, Barry Fuller, he plays defender on the left flank most of the time. So he's not playing this one or this one or this one. So that means Shehab moves up. And over on this side, Pigot moves up. And then on this side, it's usually... where's Kennedy? Oh, there's Kennedy. Yeah, Kennedy usually moves over here and plays on this side. Or maybe I have it switched. Maybe it's Barry Fuller's normally here. Kennedy plays here. Regardless, the depth chart, the way it looks, is not exactly just at a quick glance. You still have to use your brain a little bit to look at things. But still, it's a good way to see how good your team is. Also, you can do things like the assistance report and read all of this stuff. Tons of information here to figure out where your team's strengths lie and where their weaknesses lie. We have a lot of weaknesses, but we still won the league, so whatever. This is a thing that I think is relatively new, this general performance grid, and you can switch between different competitions that you're involved in. We can see here my team, and this is going to bring up something that I have a little bit of a problem with either this year's Football Manager or maybe all Football Managers, I don't know. But my team performed way better than it should have, in my opinion. And this is one, you can see here, our XG per game. It's got something to do with like scoring efficiency or something, but it was just miles above the rest of the league. This color in the middle is my league average, and this is my team outperforming the league in every single aspect except for tackling percentage, and just barely, right? And this is this league, but look at some of this other stuff. Okay, the FA Cup is not fair, even though I did have some better stats. I lost in this tournament very early because of that tactic switching that I did, so that sucked. But as far as this one, we just outperformed absolutely everybody. We made it to the quarterfinals in this tournament, where we probably should have only made it to like the second round or something. We just outperformed everyone, which has me thinking that there might be something going on in FM21 that tweaks your team to be better than average. Maybe. I don't really have any evidence to back this up, except for literally like this chart, right? Because I don't think the signings I made were so fantastical that they made my team this much better. But regardless, this is what's happened. And I've heard from some other people that it seems like people are thinking maybe FM21 might be a little on the easy side somehow. And it might be because they give your team a bit of a buff behind the scenes that I'm not aware of. Or maybe I'm just totally wrong and I'm a super badass football manager who's won the league, and nobody should question me and my opinions. Okay, moving on to staff. I filled up my staff. Nothing really noticeable here. It's all the same as FM20, and the staff members I have are like bottom tier staff members. I'm hoping, actually, after this season, that I'll be able to start cycling some of the shitty staff members out and replacing them with better staff members. I'm not really familiar or very well versed on how the finances work with your coaching staff, because I don't think that they follow the same payroll that your players do. So it's something that I'm going to have to learn more about, and during this offseason I'm going to, but I won't be able to tell you guys what I learned in this video. Training, I've left training on just letting my assistant coach handle it. Dean Milton has just been setting the training. I've done zero with this, and this kind of highlights a very strong strength with Football Manager, is if you've made it this far in the video, Football Manager has so many different aspects to it. Managing your staff, your player salaries, your tactics, your training, your scouting, your medical center, there's so many things that you can manage, but also so many things that you can just say, you know what, let the AI take care of it. And they will use their coaching abilities to try to do things to the best of their ability. This is how every other team in the game is operating behind the scenes. So there's no problem with offloading some of the things that confuse you to your staff. And training is one of the things, like you can set up specific training calendars and certain tactics that you want to practice, or certain defense abilities or attack abilities, whatever. You can train individual players, and you can be like, you know what, Massimo, you're so good at finishing that I want you to learn a new skill. There's places you can do this. You can change, or you can add things to them. I don't do any of that. I let the AI handle that. I'm not ready for this stuff yet. So maybe one day in the future I will be, and you can really customize and personalize your team this way with training, but I just let the AI handle it all season. Once again, we won the league, so it doesn't matter. Medical center, so far for this season, my injuries have been pretty light. I did have a fairly serious injury for this guy who was an important signing that I did. He was out for like 4 or 5 weeks with something. What's your injury history? Twisted ankle, that's it. 3 weeks. So, that sucked. But overall this season, my injuries have been relatively low and painless. Here's the schedule. You can have a quick look and see how things went. See, we had 2 losses early on. Oh, these are friendlies. We had 1 loss early on, and then 2 in a row here, which really hurt. But then we went on huge win streaks and unbeaten streaks. We had a couple losses here, and then these are all wins and draws. Finally, a loss in the FA Trophy quarterfinal. This team is so much higher up than me that it didn't even matter that we lost to them, though. So yeah, that's a schedule. Nothing too big to see here. Competitions is a good way to look at the different tournaments that you're involved in, as well as your main league. So these tournaments are over now. I got knocked out in the quarterfinal by Notts County. This one I got knocked out in the 4th qualifying round, which is going to piss off my owners. They weren't happy with that, but they were extremely happy with this, and they're ecstatic with this, so overall it's good. But they didn't really like that I lost here. Scouting, another one of those things that you can offload to your AI, and I do a little bit of mix of both. I kind of offload to my AI, but then I make other decisions when other players show up on my radar where I'm interested in them. But usually they're going to come at you. See, right now I have 12 reports. These are 12 players that my scouting team thinks that I might want to take a look at. Most of the time, it's these young players who are coming to me, and they're saying, hey, I want to play on your team. And you don't really have, you have some information here, it looks like, but you have to make a decision on whether or not you have room for them. I'm not really looking for wingers right now, but this guy says he'd add a bit of quality to the first team. So you know what? I'll put him on the short list, and I'll offer him a trial, because I want him to come to my team, run a few practice sessions with me, and I'll be able to judge better whether or not I want to sign him in the future. And because the end of the season is coming, I just thought, even though I just said I'm not really looking for wingers, it's very possible that some of the players that I'm going to be offloading might be wingers, so I might actually need some wingers. So I'm going to get some young players on trial so I can have a look and add them to the short list later. See, this player, he's 24 years old, so he's a little older than I'm typically looking for, but he's also got a really high salary. This guy's like 4 times the salary of any of my players, so absolutely not going to be signing him. But because he's got good stats, I can add him to the short list, and I can look for him later if I want to. 18-year-old fullback. I'm definitely looking for fullbacks, and this guy's got fantastic stats, or potentially fantastic stats. Yellow means this is what we know about. White means he might reach there. Black means he'll never reach there, I think. And white just means we still haven't discovered exactly if he's that good, but he could potentially be that good, which is amazing. So this guy, perfect for me. I'm going to offer him a trial, and there's a high likelihood I might sign him. Same with this guy, but see, so he's 27 years old, though. If I was really desperate, maybe I'd sign him. Instead, right now, see, he might replace Barry Fuller, because this guy right now is my best player, but I don't think he knows that he's probably not going to be sticking around next season, because he's old, and he's probably going to demand a large contract, I think. So yeah, we'll add this guy to the short list. We might pay him, because we might get desperate enough. Goalkeeper, I'm not too worried about goalkeepers. Fullbacks, once again, if he's got good potential, I'm just adding them to the short list. This is all I'm doing right now. These guys who I don't have any info on, I just kind of acknowledge them unless something stands out. So we're just doing this, and this is how you handle finding new players in the world, and there's probably much better ways to do it than how I do it. But that simplifies it for me. And now if I want to check out my short list, right? I have 40 players on my short list. I might be able to sort it by something else that might allow me to... okay. I don't know. I don't really do this very often, but what I'm really just looking for is like potential. I want to sort by potential, but that doesn't seem to be giving me this option. There might be some custom thing that I can put in and maybe get it to look like that, but this is something for future me to deal with. These are all my potential players that I might be looking for, and you can see, actually, can I sort by recommended? Yeah. So these are players that my team thinks, or my coaches think will fit the team very well. So anyway, I'm spending a lot of time here, but this is what I'll be doing in the off season. Transfers, this is where you come to check out whether or not you can actually transfer or purchase new players or sell players. Right now the transfer window is closed, so I can't do any of that. Club info, if you want to get a lot of information about your team, and I mean a lot. You can come in here, you can find out a lot of things, especially in the history, I think is a really good place to come. History of head coaches, history of records, everything, anything that you would expect to see here is going to be here. Now for my favorite screen, this one was introduced in FM20, so it's not new to this game, but the club vision really keeps you grounded and keeps you focused on what your goals actually are. So when I was hired to this team, they told me, we want you signing young players. We want you to reach the first round, which I failed, of the FA Cup, but I did pass the second round, so they're happy. I did reach the playoffs, they're happy. So it just lets you know what are your actual goals. And there's something new to this game that they did. At the beginning of the season, you have a recruitment meeting where your coaches all tell you, like, hey, this is what our team looks like. This is our depth. We think we need people in this position and that position. You know, this guy's getting old, so we might need to think about a replacement for him soon. And that also just helps keep you grounded and gives you a goal in case you're just out of your element, right? If you've never looked or never watched a soccer game before or understood how a sports team handles their contracts and stuff like that, or how they upgrade their players, then these types of things are very, very good. And I thought it was really cool. And then I ignored their request for central defenders because when I started, I figured I wanted to have some really good midfielders. This is why Wuton and Friel joined the team pretty early. I was focused on midfielders because I thought my midfield is really bad. But then later on, I started getting all these messages about how my team thinks I lack depth at center back. So I started getting some center backs, and apparently I still lack depth there, but I'm working on it. And these are all things that I just think is really cool. It helps to stop you from making really bad mistakes, right? And even if you do make those mistakes, you can at least somehow learn from them by this information that they give you. But the funny thing is, the information that they give you and the things that they request are all based on their own attributes for coaching or for scouting players or for whatever. So if you have bad staff, they might recommend you bad players or bad ideas. But if you replace those staff with better staff members, then, you know, hopefully the idea is that they don't give you as many bad ideas. A+, we did great this year. Oh, finances. My team looks like they've lost a shit ton of money. I have no idea how this works. This is something that might just totally come to slap me right in the ass, maybe even in this offseason. I don't exactly know why we lost so much money. I stayed within my transfer budget and my payroll. I did not spend more money than I should have. This is just how it worked out, so I don't know. But I'm hoping we get some sort of bonus for winning the league that might help this out. And then we have the Dev Center, which is our young players that may be doing well. This guy, for example, is pretty good. These are not players that I have signed, but they are players that have come up through our youth system, which is a weird sort of background mechanic that I don't really know anything about, so I can't tell you much. I don't really focus too much on this. It's just sometimes the game gives you a good player, and you either take them or you don't. So, yeah, I spent a little bit more talking about the interface and how my season went than I expected. But, you know, I've never been known for brevity, so if you've been around the channel for a while, this is just how I am. But I do want to show you guys one game. We're going to or one little gameplay loop. So if we check the schedule, we can see we have one more game on the 29th of May. So that's like 7 days away. So this is how you play Football Manager. There's a button up in the top right corner. It guides the way. So we offered this guy a trial. It's just letting us know that. And we're just going through our inbox. So this guy, we're going to accept his trial. So for 2 weeks, he's going to be running practices with us, and we'll learn more about his abilities. This is another guy we brought in for trial, so we'll just do that. And you just press continue. Now, if I have any complaints about Football Manager, and it's barely a complaint, look at this, Ryan Clark. This guy looks very good at a first glance. For a winger, we almost ignored this guy, but because he is valued at $0, we might be able to get him on a very cheap contract to start with, and maybe use this guy to good effect next season. Ryan Clark joining the club on trial. Many people want to know the chances of permanent stay. This is our local press member, our local sports journalist. He always comes to me and asks me questions like this. There's a good chance. You can dictate your personality style with different ways of responding to these reporters. I've been pretty positive all season, so they're relatively happy with me. And yeah, anyway, as I was saying, if there was one complaint about Football Manager, is that it doesn't give you many options to speed through the game faster. There might be ways that I'm not familiar with, but I think you have to make changes to the settings so that it's not really the way that you're meant to play the game, to like skip ahead in multiple games at a time or like a full season at once. You're supposed to go through it painstakingly like this, and you get all these updates right now. My coach is telling me this is the training that I've set for next week, and I always just say, sure, whatever, I don't care. But sometimes they're going to give me an email where they're like, hey, we found this player, and he's a forward, and he's got 5-star potential, and he's currently 3 stars, and we can get him for pretty cheap, so maybe you want him. And I can say yes or no. This is a loan update. So this player that I have, he's my only player that I've loaned to another team. He's been loaned to South Park. He came that way when I started the game, so I didn't actually actively loan this guy. I don't care about this dude at all. He's 21 years old, and he's just terrible. So I don't really care. When he comes back to my team, I'm not going to be re-signing him. He's not worth it, in my opinion. Well, I don't know. I mean, his potential is not that high, and he hasn't done well this year, so he's not going to be re-signed. But you can kind of see, you just sort of click through, you get these updates, you decide whether or not you care about them or not. And the cool thing is, like, you can automate pretty much everything. If you just like to watch the games, you can automate all your coaching stuff, even your staff contracts, and just hope that they make the right decisions. And you can just go through and watch some soccer. Or you can take part in some of the decisions or all of them. You can manage absolutely everything. And the game does a pretty good job just updating you. Like every couple weeks, your scouts will let you know what they found. Every couple weeks, your coaches will let you know how the players are feeling about things. And you just get all these different updates. So I keep getting these. So now he's coming back here soon because the season's almost over. So it's just telling me that. I can't wait for him to show up so I can cut him from the team. Okay. Yeah, so once again, this is not a great example because, I don't know, maybe it's the last week of the season, so I'm not getting a ton of updates. We get an update on how our opponent looks. This is the type of style they like to play. We can see, as per the general performance graphs, my team this season has vastly outperformed. We can see tackling percentage is a bit of a weakness for us, so that might be something to consider. Some of our players have become homegrown. That's a strange mechanic that basically the longer a player stays on your team, the better chance of them becoming homegrown, and then that has something to do with the registration rules that I don't know about. This is the team my coach suggests I use for the next game. A little news article. We're surefire favorites. Mathematically secured the league title. So we can put all our young players out there if we wanted. This game literally means nothing. We see Tom Duke is... Sammy L. Abd. He's declining. This guy, 34 years old. Kind of shitty player, right? So I'm not planning on re-signing this guy. Are we set to lose Shihab? Yeah, so sometimes it gives you these articles where it says, I don't think they're going to sign this guy. And maybe it's like a problem. I'm definitely going to try to re-sign this guy. but I haven't committed to it yet. I'm just not in contract mode yet. So I'm not going to offer him a contract now because I don't exactly know where my finances are going to be. So I don't know how much I want to pay him. So I'm just waiting. Maybe that's a bad idea. I don't know. Technically, any other team can come to that player and they'll be like, oh, Dorking hasn't given you an offer yet. Why don't I give you an offer now? And that might pressure me to step in and give an offer. And when that happens, you get emails. And you'll get an email saying like, oh, this team is interested in Shihab and they gave him this offer. So maybe you want to give a counter offer. Things like that. It's really cool. I actually really like it. The game just spoon feeds you decisions to make, you know? So you don't even have to really know what the process is. It's just going to spoon feed you the process and you can make whatever decisions you want. So my original idea was to play this game out on a very long highlight setting so we can just enjoy a nice long game. But this video has gone on long enough, so we're going to just go through the key highlights like I normally do, so you can get a look at the match engine. Yeah, I don't care about any of this. Sure, do it. So at the beginning of a game, you get ideas from your managers on what you should do. This is only one idea, which means most of my advice or most of my tactics are the team is happy with, so I don't have to make any changes. I always do quick pick. This is what my assistant manager thinks is the best team. We can see we have some familiarity between these players. They work very well together because they have some practice working together. These guys, not so much because Pigot is new. I only just recently signed him, so he's getting familiar, but he's relatively new. But look at that, 3 stars when we had a 2-star there before, so it was better. You can see here McManus, he's a bit of a weak link. Kennedy as well, and you can see that in their last 5 games form. So let's go ahead and submit the team. This stuff is new for FM21, letting you know which players are happy, which ones are upset. Sometimes it's interesting. You'll get like an update where it's like, oh, this player doesn't really like the work the ball into the box tactic because it doesn't fit his particular attributes. And that could be interesting. I don't care. I run it anyway, but maybe you care. And maybe you get rid of that player and put someone in who loves working the ball into the box. Here's another slight difference with this year. Before, you would just be able to say you're praising players, or you're positive, or you're negative, or you're cautious. Now you do hand gestures, which essentially means the exact same thing. And in all honesty, most of the time, I just do no gesture, and I just do assistant recommends. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So maybe I'm missing opportunities to make my players play better because of that, but I won the league once again, so it's working out for me right now. So the game is already going, by the way. If you've never seen Football Manager, you have these options where you can change the camera. I like sideline. You can do 2D where you only see. So if your computer's not very good, this is a great way to watch. It definitely takes up way less resources. And you can change it to zoom and get closer if you want. You can do TV angle. You can do behind the goal, vertical, all stuff. And depending on how your brain works, you might like to change it. Like, I really like putting it on sideline because as the gameplay goes, I can see my tactics in action very well like this. You can change if you want to watch the full match, comprehensive highlights, extended highlights, key highlights, or only commentary. We go on key highlights. Otherwise, it would take me a year to finish one season. And there's other options here as well. You can see all your players down here. I'm not a big fan of the new interface. I actually really liked FM20 interface, and I got really used to it. Now you have these little heart symbols for their stamina. Before it was just a percentage number, which was very easy to read. Now you're kind of like, I can't really tell. And their happiness levels down here, and then the numbers beside the happy face is how well they're playing. And they always start around 6.5 or so, and if they're playing well, it increases, and if they're playing bad, it decreases. So this is the match engine here. This is us giving up a goal immediately, and we're losing. So that's cool. This game doesn't mean anything, but we are losing. So all this is kind of the thing that I'm mostly interested in with these sports managers, is that these players are an amalgamation of like speed stat, ball handling stat, passing stat, finishing stat, decision-making stat, footwork, all of this stuff, and it results in this, which is just fun to watch. And there's a penalty. Was that a penalty? Yep. This guy has only missed one penalty shot all season. There we go. Puts it home. That's his 31st goal of the season. It's funny, the one penalty shot he missed as well actually came in the game that we clinched the league title. And he needed to hit the penalty shot for us to take the lead. We were tied at the time, and that was the one that he missed, but then we ended up winning later. So the game is simming in the background. All of these stats are generating. We're seeing that we're leading in possession and all this stuff. We can pause the game at any time, pop open our tactics. If we want, we can change anything we want about our tactic. We can sub in players here. You know, standard football manager stuff. I'm not going to go into too great of a detail. We're just hoping that we get some cool highlights to show you so we can round out this video. Bakayoko to Marsh Brown with the kick. That ball didn't even hit the ground before he put it in with his left foot. Absolutely unstoppable. Look at this. He crosses it in. Doesn't even hit the ground. Boom! Left foot. Puts it in. Our goalie probably should have been able to save that, but regardless. We can shout at our team, and they've also recently changed it so you can decide which players you want to shout at. This season, I've done less shouting because I've noticed that it's had more negative impact than usual. So I just don't really shout at all, and I don't really let it affect my players. Sometimes I'll praise them if we're winning like 2-0 or 3-0, and they like it, but... Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, that was a really good defensive play. And now it's a corner kick. So let's see if we can make anything happen from this corner. Kennedy boots it in. We've retained possession, but obviously nothing came of it, and we will be moving to halftime. Again, this is a relatively quick way to get through the games. I'm just going to do what the assistant recommends and start the second half. But if you like to watch more, you can change it so you can watch more or even less. Here's a free kick. Doesn't really work out. And the way that I typically handle my games is I let them play until about the 60-minute mark. And then I decide who needs to come off. Sometimes players are tired by then, so we'll decide at that point. Oh, nice defense by Bakayoko. Seen his name come up a lot, so he's probably one of their better players. But we retain possession here. And this is our working into the box, and we score and tie it up. Joe Iasciofano. Iasciofano. That's the first time I said his name out loud. But this is what I like. This short passing possession style looks a little bit like tiki-taka kind of gameplay. And we score a lot of goals in that exact fashion. Looks like he was almost offside, but not quite. No. He's totally onside. Great play. He scores a lot of goals like that. And now we've tied it up. We're keeping an eye on the time here. And my mouse on the pause button as we pause it right here at 60. And we just have a look, okay? Who's tired? So right away I noticed Niall McManus. He's the most tired. I liked it before when it was percentage-based, when you could just really easily see that. And there might be a setting where I can change it back. Honestly, I didn't really look. But I can still tell in this case, clearly, this guy's the most tired. And he's also not playing super well. This guy's also not playing great. But Niall McManus will take him out. Actually, you know what? The thing is, he's a left winger. And Nestor Shako is my only other winger. But he's a right winger. So I'm actually going to replace our lone player with Shako. The reason why is Shako, I really like him. He's a 20-year-old player that I signed. He's got good potential, so I'm giving him chances to play. He actually scored a goal in his first ever game that I put him in, so I kind of remember him. He's got not great match sharpness, though. So, and then Jake Gallagher usually comes in for one of my central midfielders. So we'll put him in for Ben Friel because he's not playing as well. And I saved one final sub for later on in case somebody gets injured. So these guys will come on. There'll be some fresh legs, try to shake things up. We're not winning, by the way. Got to keep that in mind. Oh! I thought this Kennedy was the Kennedy on my team, but I think it's a Kennedy on the other team. That's their forward, Kennedy. I thought it was my defensive back, Kennedy, that was coming to try to get the ball, and I was like, why is he kicking it like that right at my goalie? Back at Yoko once again. Here's their Kennedy. Osman. McManus with the nice interception, moving the ball up to Iashiafano. Oh, he gives it away. All right, plays dead. Oh, Kennedy. Here we go. We're going to lose this game. Oh! What a shot to the back post. 33rd goal of the season. This guy, he knows how to score goals. So I could shout at my team, like demand more or something, but this game literally means nothing, and that was a nice goal. So I don't even care if we lose, but at least you guys are getting to see some goals. And if you're Football Manager players and you've seen previous iterations of the game, you might be noticing how the match engine just looks and plays a little bit better. Oh my god, off the crossbar. Okay, hold on. I'm going to actually pause it real quick here because we're at 75 minutes. This is usually when I check to see who else do I want to slot in. I want to put James McShane in. He's one of my best subs. And both of these guys are doing equally well. We're going to take out Iashiafano. Mostly because he's a late addition to the team. But James McShane and Jason Pryor have been here since the beginning, and they have really good chemistry together. So, when I mark my words, one of those two is going to score now. After the sub actually happens. Unless we score right here. Oh, bad pass by Shako. Gives it away. Kennedy, once again, trying to make something happen. The defense is backing up. Getting into position. Marsh Brown looking for a pass. Gives it away. Gallagher, nice interception. Hopefully our McShane gets on the field here. There, he is on the field now, so we need him in order to score. We got 5 minutes left in the game, so let's go ahead and change our mentality to very attacking. Let's see if we can get a goal here. Can we do it in the final minutes? Maybe, maybe not. Here we go. Looks like we might give up a goal. But it doesn't always... Football Manager is tricky. It'll show you a lot of highlights where you're on the attack and then it looks like you're going to score, but then a quick giveaway and all of a sudden they're on the counterattack and they score. So this could happen the same way for us. There's Pryor up to McShane. Wuton. Gallagher setting up, gives it away. Gallagher, he's an older player, but he's a pretty good sub. Comes in off the bench almost every game. Wuton up to McShane and he scores! I told you one of those players was going to score a goal. James McShane, 24th goal of the season, ties it up after a great pass from Wuton. And Pigot with the nice header there. What a pass and what a goal. Ties the game up in the 91st minute. Dartford thought they were going to pull one off on us, but look at the score now. We tied it at the end of the game with a 3-3 tie. And I'm just going to tell them... I'm delighted with that performance. It looks like they liked it. Our players like to be patronized a little bit, I noticed. Like, they love it when I say nice things about them, even if they don't really deserve it. I mean, we're the league winners. We should be beating Dartford, which ended up in 13th, but who knows? Either way, guys, this has been a pretty long video, but most of my first impression videos are going to be pretty long. There's a nice little news article. They're very well written and they give you a lot of cool stats. Sometimes you find out things like, oh, this player was like his 100th career goal or something, and it's just nice to know. And we got playoffs happening, which I don't even know how the playoffs work. In all reality, I was supposed to be a playoff team, but I don't think I'm going to even have to play in the playoffs because I think I've solidified my promotion to the next league, which is something I realized just now that I didn't really talk about, but it's just another way that soccer works. You got these tiers of leagues. And actually, I can quickly show you. Vanarama National League South is literally the bottom league. It goes to English FA Cup if I go any lower. But if I go up, we can see the League North. We can see the National League. We can see Sky Bet League 2, Sky Bet League 1, Sky Bet Championship, which is one step below the Premier League, which is where all the teams you've heard of reside. Looks like Man City is winning. In fact, they've clinched it, so that's cool. And as you do well, you promote to leagues higher, and the bottom dwellers promote or demote down. So Crystal Palace, West Ham, and West Brom are going to end up next season in Sky Bet Championship. where they might have an advantage because they were just a Premier League team, so they have some Premier League players, and they probably should be expected to come back up. But the way that things work, it doesn't always work that way. So it makes it very interesting. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it. We got to see a game. I rambled on forever about Football Manager. If you've seen my previous videos, you know I tend to ramble quite a bit, but I feel like I gave you guys a good idea of what this game is about. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Let me know in the comments what you think. And that's going to do it for this one. So if you like Football Manager, it's actually out now. You can go ahead and buy it. I'm not sponsored by these guys or anything like that. I just like this game, and I like talking about it. And I think I'm going to sign myself some Ryan Clark. Look at this winger. 20 years old on the left. He's mostly in shape. You know, he's like he's pretty athletic, good work rate, stuff like that. He can work on this stuff. Also, this player. So one interesting thing is if you go to reports and then sort by potential or current ability, whatever, it will include the loan characters that you have. So I've loaned in these guys, and you can stack them up against your current team. Looks like I took in 2 wingers. And both on the left as well. So I'm probably just going to choose one of these guys. This guy's wanted by another team, so that means I'm probably going to have to pay him a little more. So yeah, it's cool. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I've got some special projects in the works that are probably weeks or months away, but regardless, working on some new things, and I can't wait to show you. So we'll talk to you guys later.